I'm going to say hello to everyone who has joined. I know you're muted, so you don't have to worry about saying hello back. But as we're letting people in, and yeah, this is exciting.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Kelvin King. I'm here with my wife, Janelle. We are the Kings, and this is a special event for our Let's Win for America Action Pack. This is an event that's going to touch a lot of hearts, I think, and I hope. Just to give a little background about me, I'm a general contractor. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a general contractor. I'm also a former U.S. Senate candidate. We started LWFAA, or Let's Win for America Action, after my U.S. Senate race. I did not make it out of the primary, but we wanted to stay in the game and continue to help our party through November. So we started this PAC, and we started doing some special engagements and some special campaigns. I'm trying to really reach out to a group of voters or citizens that the Republican Party hadn't always done a good job of reaching out to. The purpose of our PAC is to ensure that we have sound messaging that's going to diverse communities and non-traditional Republican type voters or conservative voters. And we believe the best way to do it is to really target families and the family structure. And we think that the breakdown of family is something that we really need to address. And we address it with, events like this.
Yeah, so I'm Janelle King. I'm a media personality. I'm also a political strategist. But this event here is not about politics. This event is about families. Like Kelvin said, we really want to make sure that we were creating a holistic approach to supporting families. I saw a recent poll that came out. Actually, the poll was from 2020, but that's early enough. That's talked about how there are right around 23 million children who are living in single parent households, and about 33% of those students or those kids are under the age of 21. So that means that there's a lot of co-parenting that's going on. There's a lot of custody discussions that's happening. And so when you have that going on, a lot of times the kids are stuck in the middle. The parents are just trying to figure it all out. And if we say that we are, here to support the mom and the dad and the families, and we just can't say that we're doing pro-life stuff or all the political stuff. We got to make sure we have these wrap-around services, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're doing this. And that's why we really wanted to connect the organization that will be presenting to you today is Our Children Have Rights. And we have Jake and Greg with us. A little bit about how we got connected. We were introduced by a friend of ours who was in the political space, and we were actually having a meeting with a congressman, and we were talking about something totally different. And then the individual said, "You know what? I think you need to talk to these two guys that we met in Florida." And when they started telling us what they did, Kelvin and I were like, "Oh,
yeah, we've got to meet these guys.
We got to meet them." And then when we finally connected, Kelvin had his own personal story. Greg shared his personal story, and we knew that this was exactly what we want. So our desire, like I said, is to support parents, to support the whole family holistically, and make sure that we prioritize the child. So I'm going to allow Jake and Greg to introduce themselves and the organization, and then we'll come right back to do some preliminary stuff, and then we'll get to the presentation. So Jake, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle, Kelvin, for having us. Like you said, we had a great conversation, and that led to this and hopefully future things. But to get right into it, my name's Jake Hornstein. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of OurChildrenHaveRights.org.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Jake, for that. Again, my name is Greg Hill. I am also a co-founder and CEO of Our Children Have Rights, and who the mission is to protect children's rights to have access to both parents equally by providing co-parenting resources. I'm sure we'll get more into it a little later. We're not going to go too far into it right now, but I just want to give the mission statement first, and then we'll do some housekeeping, and then we'll go forward.
Absolutely. So if you're joining us live, or if you're listening to the playback, because we certainly want to make sure we get this to as many people as possible. The big question is, who is this for? Who are we presenting to? Who does this presentation benefit? And for us, we believe that it's obviously the parents who are struggling with parental rights, and or the family members of these type of situations that are close to the situation. I would like to say that I will say that there's also friends and coworkers, and it could be anybody if you know somebody who's dealing with this. But there's also organizations that are on the front lines of working with pro-life initiatives that are on that side of things, but they want to make sure that they're just, like, again, not pushing policy 100% of the time, but they're also supporting families. So we do have the executive director of the Georgia Life Alliance, Claire Bartlett, is on the line right now. She's not going to say a few words, but I want to acknowledge her and acknowledge the work that's being done through the Georgia Life Alliance. I know that this organization is about creating an environment that supports life, not simply pushing pro-life initiatives. And it's also an organization that is working to create a pro-life culture where life is valued. And in this case, there's also a focus in on, like I said, supporting the moms and supporting the families. So thank you, Claire, for joining us. We hope to share this with additional organizations that are in that space, that are connected to the moms and connected to the dads as well, who are in these particular situations. So we appreciate everyone that's on the line and our organizations that are supporting us.
And speaking of the dads, I wanted to kind of kick off with a personal story and why this organization is so important, not just to the community, not just to families, not just to fathers, but to me, personally, because many of you all know me and my personal story, but for those who don't, I fathered a child at a young age. I did graduate the Air Force Academy. I had a great career, but I fathered a child when I was 19. And that wasn't planned. Clearly that wasn't planned. And there was no instruction manual that I had to go off of. And I just had to figure it out. And in that figuring it out, sometimes it was ugly, sometimes it wasn't, but a lot of times it was ugly, trying to figure it out. I was a young dad, and my son's mother was a young mother. And we both felt like we didn't have a whole lot of guidance. We all had our unique feelings about the scenario and the situation, but today our son is 29 years old, and we've made it through that difficult time period. And frankly, I wish that I knew an organization like this, or I wish I was aware of or had access to an organization like this to help guide my decision making at the time, right?
Yeah.
So Greg and I, we can certainly relate, and I would love for you to share your story too, because this is kind of how we initially connected.
Yeah.
So the backdrop of my story, my son was conceived in the state of New Jersey. And 3 weeks before he was born, mom moved to Florida. So then I moved to Florida to protect his rights to have access to me. And so, of course, I did what we would all do. I did the first thing that came to mind, first thing that the advisor and everybody around me said, go get a lawyer. The lawyer's going to help you. The lawyer's going to take care of it, right? So I did that, right? I got the lawyer, and I went through the process with the lawyer. Well, come to find out, by me not educating myself, I had no idea what the lawyer was talking about. And so the lawyer took me through mediation, and the lawyer agreed with the mediator. So I went into mediation uneducated, and I got railroaded. I came out of mediation ordered to pay $1,141 a month for a son that had no access to me. So from there, I came back home and I sat in this very chair, and I went through about 3 months of feeling depressed, feeling down, feeling as if I failed my son as a father. So then the light bulb goes off, and I said, wait a minute, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it myself. So then I began to read and research and try to understand everything from the state that I'm in as far as education, right? What is the state trying to say to me? What are they telling me that I'm not doing correctly? And so I got that information, and I was armed now with that education of understanding what they're asking, what the process is supposed to be. So now I go back to court and I represent myself. So now with the lawyer, I came out of the opportunity with $1,141 my son had 0 overnight access to me. I go in and represent myself. I come out of that. Now my son has 50-50 access to me, and now I'm paying $124 a month. So just that education and that information, I was able to go and represent myself and get the actual process and get the parenting plan navigated down to where it's a reasonable parenting plan. And now my son has that access to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so now understanding that information, I said, wait a minute. There has to be other people out here that need this information. You know, we want to be accountable. We just don't know how. So how are we going to do it? And that's when I wrote a book about it. I wrote the book, Our Children Have Rights. You can find it on Amazon. We'll give you more details about that later.
That is awesome. So you all can go ahead and roll into your presentation. That was a great setup. And I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of big benefits out of this.
You know, Jake.
Yeah, I think, you know, what was amazing about Greg's story when we reconnected back in December 2020 was he had the means to hire attorneys. So he spent tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, and really had these setbacks on the legal side. And I thought, well, what about the people who can't afford attorneys? And so that just really, you know, it inflated the need to start the organization and help more people. And a lot of it is based on education. Sometimes parents come to us because they need help finding the right attorney. There's a lot of common mistakes that people make during that lawyer consultation process. For example, hiring an attorney that regularly practices not only family law, but in the county of your court case. That's important because that means that that attorney would be more familiar with the judges, the clerks, which means they'll be more familiar with certain decision-making tendencies. Alternatively, if you don't have an attorney who regularly practices in that county, you'll be at a disadvantage because that attorney won't be as familiar with the court system in that particular area. But there's just a lot of common mistakes that people make, whether you have the financial means to hire an attorney or not. And so that was kind of that was really the basis of starting the organization, helping people avoid a lot of common mistakes and know a lot of different tips and things like that to condense the timeline of really the child being the subject of a prolonged litigation dispute. So we condense the timeline and simultaneously help parents save a lot of time, money, resources.
And just like you, Mr. Kelvin, it was a situation where I wish I had these resources to help navigate this process. And so since those resources weren't there, Jake and I connected and we said, hey, you know, let's put it together. Let's do a nonprofit organization, you know, and help these people, because a lot of times, you know, these people they don't have the guidance that they need to navigate this process. And so since they don't have that education, the mental health, legal aid, and documentation review, then it leaves the children to suffer. So we really wanted to get back and help the children through the parents. And so that's really the idea and the concept of Our Children Have Rights, which it says it in the name. The children have the access and the children have rights to both parents. So the parents should not go through this argument and these fighting stages. They shouldn't go through fight or flight with each other. And the focus should be on the children. And we could do that if we educate the parents, make sure their mental health is stable, and then make sure they have the documentation, the education that they need to go through this process and protect these children's rights to have access to them.
Yeah, and in terms of what we offer, first of all, everything we do is at no cost to the families. But the main direct services are no-cost consultations, which we're able to do over Zoom, FaceTime, email, phone, even text message and Facebook Messenger. We really let the parent decide their preferred method of communication. The other direct service is no-cost documentation review, focusing mainly on parenting plans and other related documents. But the parenting plan is important. It's a legal document that governs the relationship between the two co-parents and the child. And so if there's holes that need to be filled in terms of time sharing and holidays, and what happens if there's a disagreement of what school a parent wants to send the child to, those things, it's best to get it right on the front end versus making mistakes years down the road. And then our website itself is really a no-cost virtual educational resource center. We have a lot of educational materials on simply what is child custody, what is the parenting plan, how to represent yourself in court, and And it's really anything related to the child custody process, whether you're an unmarried co-parent or a married co-parent pursuing divorce, or a single parent. It's the website itself is a hub for resources. It's like a free virtual library, basically.
That's right. And with that resource, we have the opportunity to diminish a lot of things that can go on between the two parties, right? We can diminish a lot of the things that happen between the families. And once we get that education to them, once they understand what's going on, they come down out of fight or flight. And now they can have a smooth transition for these children. And like Jake said, we do it through, no cost consultation, documentation review, workshops, speaking engagements. But the real thing that I think really helps parents is you have the opportunity to speak to a parent who's done it the wrong way and the right way. And so we really have that propensity to help these parents through that process. No matter where they are in the process, we can talk you through and get you through the finish line, because we've already seen 89.9% of all the issues that are going to happen. We've seen it. And so we can help you avoid some of those issues and save you time, money, and resources when it comes to these children.
And one thing that we prioritized was access to us. Basically, anyone. So Greg and I are in Florida. I'm in Clearwater, Florida. Greg's in Ocoee, which is Central Florida. But wherever you live in the country, anyone can access the website. And in terms of having access to Greg and myself, it's as simple as going onto the site, submitting our initial questionnaire is what we call it. It's basically our intake form. It's a very brief form, which gives us a general overview of the state of affairs and the circumstances. But we wanted to make sure that access to us was as seamless as it could possibly be. You don't have to drive to a facility to have an in-person appointment with us. It's really, sometimes we'll get a notification right away, and then within minutes, Greg is speaking to the parent. So the access was important to be able to help as many people as possible and just cut out any red tape and any barriers to anyone being able to speak to us. And it's always on an as needed, ongoing basis. So we'll have maybe one conversation with the parent for 15 minutes and we never hear from them again. Then we could be on our 15th conversation with a parent over the course of a year and a half. So it's really this open door. Come and go as you please. Reach out to us when you need us. Some parents need help from the first inning to the ninth inning. Some parents just need help getting from the fifth inning to the sixth inning. So an ongoing basis as needed.
This is wonderful.
So they can reach out to you as many times as they need to, right?
As many times as they need to. So what'll happen is, like Jake stated earlier, they will come to that initial contact form. And what that form does is gives us certain information that helps us help them navigate the process, right? Because it's really, so the way we do it is we really have a couple of things that we look for. Have you established paternity? Do you have a parenting plan? If you have a parenting plan, well, is the other party obeying the parenting plan? Most of the issues are going to fall in between those three. And so once we see the information on that intake form, we can say, hey, no, go back and start this. And then once you do this, we can help you through the rest of it. So they can reach out to us anytime they want, whether they're at the first inning, like Jake said, or whether they're at the ninth inning. It doesn't matter where they are in the process. They can reach out to us and use us as a sounding board, and we will help walk them through the process of protecting their children's right to have access to them.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're dealing with, these are legal matters, legal topics. And if a parent or anyone wants to look up what is a parenting plan, it's a legal document. And so oftentimes these topics, they're explained in other legal language. So one thing that we try to do is put things in layman's terms so that the average person can understand it. So whether it's, FAQs or the most common legal terms and phrases, we basically will reproduce the definitions without changing the actual definitions, but just put it into very simple language, layman's terms for the average person to more easily understand.
And we can't stress enough how imperative it is for parents to go out, read, research, get the information yourself in your state, because every state is a little bit different, right? Just like Georgia has legitimization, whereas Florida has a VDOP or paternity. So it just depends on where you are. And if you go and get that information and you bring it back to us, if you don't understand it, we can help break it down for you so it can be understood. So now you're educated, you can go back and hold everyone accountable with that information. So it is imperative that parents go and do the research yourself. And if you don't understand it, come and talk to us, reach out to us, and we'll help you get through that information. But you have to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's what we're all trying to do here. Be proactive instead of reactive. We want to keep you out of the courts if we can. And if you're educated and you have your mind in the right place, it's possible that, you two parents can sit down and come up with a parenting plan yourself and save yourself time, money, and resources. But you have to be educated. You have to do the willingness and to do the work to go and make sure this is possible. And, you have to want to be accountable for these children. So it's imperative for parents to want these for themselves. And if you do these things for yourself, we can help you through the process.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more gratifying things of what we do, and the parents that reach out to us, they're not being necessarily court ordered to reach out to us. These are parents that want to be involved and have a willingness to be involved. So no one is forcing them to go to us as a resource. So when a parent reaches out, we know that they want to be educated. They're hungry for the information. So it just makes it a little bit more gratifying to work with them.
And that goes to show, just like, Mr. Kelvin, your situation and my situation, we wanted to be accountable. We just didn't know how. And so that's what OCHR is here to bridge that gap and help us be accountable, right? And so we can avoid a lot of the pitfalls and the things that we went through instead of dealing with that stuff that we had to deal with.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people, they might even give up. They'll hear from their friends who went through this and they spent a lot of money and time and didn't have a successful outcome. But the reality is, if you just have the right guidance and the right tools, or in our case, someone to speak to help guide you through the process, you realize that, no, I can do this. So really, it is about empowering parents to have success through these processes and empowering them with education. And whether let's say a parent can't afford an attorney, one thing as an example that will help them with is finding a reputable pro bono attorney in the area that they live in. So that includes working with a lot of other nonprofits, knowing who the pro bono agencies are, but also knowing who the bar associations are in that county or that region of whatever state that you're in. The bar associations, they have lawyer referral programs, but to be an attorney in that program, you have to be in good standing with the bar. So we don't want to send a parent to a generic findlaw.com website and not know if they're going to get paired with an attorney that is reputable. We know through the bar associations, they're in good standing. So that's another example of how we might help a parent get connected to the right reputable attorney given their circumstance.
And also, good thing for the state of Georgia, we've already referred some parents to the Georgia bar, the Atlanta bar, different county bars also. I think Fulton County has a bar association. We've already referred some parents to the bar associations in the area of Georgia. So we already have some relationships there. So let's help these families in Georgia.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Sure. Now, I have a quick insert question. Do y'all have a suggestion or a recommended time in this process to reach out to you? I mean, I know you said it could be the 5th or 6th inning, but do y'all have a recommendation?
Oh yeah.
We would say, I mean, in the ideal circumstance would, for someone when they're in the very beginning of that process, to know who we are. That's not always the case. Oftentimes people find out about us halfway through, but they find out about us because they're Googling things and researching things. And then they see one of our ads on Facebook because Facebook and the others, they're matching our posts with their online activity. So yeah, oftentimes parents find out about us because of what they're doing online, specifically looking for information. But also a third of the parents find out about us through parents that we've already engaged with. So that word of mouth has been great. But in terms of, ideally parents know about us in the very beginning. That's not always the case, but wherever they are in the process, if they need help, they can reach out.
But if you can, please reach out to us as early as possible to help avoid some of those things that may happen along the way. If a parent can reach out to us once they find out, they're about to conceive, we can get in there and help and make sure that these parents protect the child's rights before it gets to a place where it might be an ugly situation. So the sooner the better. for parents to reach out to us. We can help get in there and be proactive instead of reactive. I'm going to stress that through the whole speech. I want to be proactive instead of reactive to the situation that we have here.
And Greg makes a great point. We've had parents who they're not married. The mom is now expecting, and the parents, they just want to know what their rights are as an unmarried couple expecting a child. What are my rights? So that's probably the best example of a parent being proactive, knowing that, okay, just in the event that we break up during this pregnancy, or if there's a big change in life circumstances where one of us has to move due to employment or something like that, parents do reach out just to be educated on what do I need to know as we're going through this process.
And even in terms of, documentation, right? So most states have what is called an AOP or a VDOP. Let's get some education in right here. So a VDOP is what we would call a voluntary declaration of parentage. And then the AOP is an acknowledgement of paternity. So most states will have this document, but the issue is we're not educated on it. We don't know anything about it. So the way it works is if both parents sign this documentation at the hospital, then the documentation will legally have both parents have 50-50 access to, both parents have rights to the children. But in the event that you're in a state where if you don't sign that document and the father doesn't have any rights, well, the father has an uphill battle. So it is imperative that we educate ourselves on the information in your state. And we also have to be cognizant and be mindful that if you sign that AOP, there's a time period where you can go and have that annulled, because you don't want to be on the hook for a child that's not yours before you take the paternity test. So it's a lot of information that goes into this. You want to be educated going into this process. So it is imperative that that education happens as early as possible.
Man, I think that this is why I'm excited that we have the Georgia Life Alliance on the line, because can you imagine, I want every pregnancy center to have pamphlets, because a lot of times that's where you go, right, to these organizations, and they work closely with these organizations, and having this, to be able to give this to them as a resource along with, everything else. I mean, think about what you're cutting down a lot of stress, right, and a lot of unnecessary stress, because like you said, in most cases, both parents want to be there for their child.
Right.
In most cases.
I'm going to use an old saying. You're turning lemons into lemonade, right? So it may seem like a unfair or challenging scenario, but you're giving a glimpse of light and hope, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'll help on that. It's only unfair if you're uneducated, right? If you're educated, then you know how to go and hold everybody accountable. Right? People complain all the time, the law is this, the law is that. Well, the law has, stipulations in there where if you're educated and you understand how it works, you can go in and handle your business. Right. But if you don't understand how it works, you're going to get railroaded. And that's by the judge, that's by the other party, that's by the lawyer, because you're uneducated, you're misinformed, or you're uninformed. So it is imperative that you inform yourself. And now you can go and hold everybody involved accountable. That's really what this is. Accountability with the
Right. Sorry, Jake, you can go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good.
I told you.
I was just trying to figure out which document to put up on the screen.
Do this,
I'm
Jake.
assuming you can see what I have on my other screen. It's another. Okay.
Yeah. Do this, Jake. Put up the slide that talks about the influence or the impact on the children that have access to both parents. And so this is one we need to hit home also. Because the children that have access to both parents are more likely to have better reading habits. They're less likely to try substance and abuse substances. They're less likely to have behavioral issues. Look, so these stats right here are really statistics that we want to drive home to parents that have to make sure that you don't set your child behind. We understand, Mom, sometimes you want to protect that child. We get it. And Dad, sometimes, you don't want to be accountable, but when you have that access, when that child have that access to you, this is how you can set your child at an equal or better or above playing field, and that child is more likely to be successful. But when you give up, when you don't be accountable, when you drive the other parent away, the child is 4 times more likely to live in poverty, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 11 times more likely to have violent behavior issues, 20 times more likely. The stats speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just, this isn't even, after high school, the children that have access to both are more likely to go to college, get a better paying job, pay taxes. All these things go into children being well-rounded and being model citizens if the children have that yin and yang, mom and dad, both sides of the coin. So it is imperative that, we make sure these children are given their best opportunity to be successful. And that success, it happens with both parents being involved.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Greg said, there is a societal benefit to this in terms of, less breaking cycles of poverty, more kids growing up to be tax-paying citizens, less reliance on welfare programs. So it saves taxpayers money, but also it breaks cycles of poverty, where someone who, if they do go to school, they stay out of trouble, they're more likely to have a higher quality of life.
Absolutely. And a lot of the deficit that we're facing right now in this country is because we're trying to prop up people that could have been accountable to their children, because the children need these resources. So if both parents are accountable, then the country doesn't have to step in and pay for that child. So if we can get these parents to be accountable for these children, I think we could do a service not only to immediate family, but extended family, our communities, and our country.
I hear something too,
Yeah,
where Kelvin always talks about confidence, like we want to build confidence in people, and that we have a lot of adults who don't have confidence. And I feel like this here will, if the child knows that, well, while my parent may not be living, both parents may not be living in the same house, but I have equal support from both.
Yeah.
They now have the confidence to go into school and participate in programs and, feel, good about what they're doing. So it's just such a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, this example here is more from the parent standpoint, but this is an example of someone who reached out, and he says to Greg, knowing that I finally have someone in my corner lifts my spirits every time I feel down. But it's about the parent being confident, and knowing that there's someone who has gone through this, and it's a no-cost resource, but someone who they can bounce ideas off of, they can just turn to as a resource, and that translates into more confidence for the parent that we're trying to help.
That's right. And I make sure I tell parents all the time, hey, let's set a game plan, a blueprint together for you, and then go and execute this. And if you have any issues, come back. We'll go back. We'll go over it again. We'll follow up. We'll reset it and do it again. Just to make sure that we get you through this process. So it's just imperative that the parents want to do this. And if you want to be accountable, we are here for you. We're here.
Oh man, that last statement is pretty powerful. The guy said he never had a father in his life, and he wants to be the best father. And thanking you all for helping him.
And this is our intake form. This is really the only paperwork that we ask for prior to responding to a parent. We try to keep it very, very brief. Name, email, phone, city and state. How did you hear about us? That's more for our own, internal educational purposes. But age of the children, are you amicable? Have you hired an attorney? Is the child on your insurance? And then there's a few open-ended responses that if the parent wants to give a lot more detail, they can. But if they want to just keep it as limited as they prefer, then that's fine too. But this is the extent of really what we ask, just to have a conversation with the parent.
Man, this is good.
It was Greg's idea.
Well, it is our idea, and I'll say this, again, it's just like myself and Mr. Kelvin. We just wanted somebody that can help us, and so I'm just trying to be that opportunity to help somebody else and pay it forward. Yeah. I found a way to help these children, and it just means the world that we get out to the community and help any and everyone that we can, because at the end of the day, we're all better for it if we can help these children and help these families.
Absolutely. Well, I see we have a comment where our executive director with GLA said that she is excited to introduce y'all to some other pregnancy networks and connect with y'all. So she's gonna look out for you.
Yeah, one thing about us is we love to collaborate with other organizations. And what that also helps us with is, Greg and I aren't licensed therapists. There's a lot of services that we just don't do, we don't offer. But knowing what other resources are out there enables us to better help parents who have those needs. So kind of like the second bucket of what we do outside of the direct services with the consultations and the document review is helping parents get connected to needs that they have. And the resources are out there. They just might not encounter them on their own, but we know how to find things. We know where to look. If it's a parent in another state that we're not as familiar with, we know they'll have a 211. We know their county government will have what most county governments also have, whether it's housing needs, rental assistance. So we know where to find these things, but really it's a lot of bridging the gap between the needs that parents and families have and the resources that do already exist. It's just more of a matter of connecting the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to call those our wraparound service because we want to have a more of a holistic approach, right? Yes, we do what we do, but we want to make sure that once we make our part is done, if you still need resources, we have somebody to connect you with and point you in the direction you're going to get what you need, because these children need resources until the day they die, right? Until forever. So we want to make sure those resources are available and we can direct people to those resources. So yes, we do what we do, but we also lean on the community to do all the other wraparound services and resources and make sure that everybody gets what they need from all the other resources as well.
Yeah. And that really stemmed from parents reaching out to us, and we learned that they weren't getting custody through the courts because maybe they were unemployed. And so helping parents find employment, knowing what workforce development programs are out there, that's important because there are these other barriers and these ancillary challenges that parents face that interfere with the custody process. If they don't have housing, if they don't have a place for themselves to live or the child to live, that's going to be a barrier. So knowing what kind of housing organizations are out there, but also organizations that help with down payment assistance or transitional housing. So again, it's really just knowing the landscape of the community and knowing what resources are out there.
Mm-hmm. And that really kind of stemmed from, we have this theory, or this, well, it actually works. We have this process of saying, there's really three things that the courts are going to look for, and then they'll look for the smaller things. One of the main things is the number of overnights that the parents have with the children. The overnights are a direct correlation to child support, right? The more overnights you have, the lesser the child support. The second thing is insurance. If you have that child on your insurance, well, that gets accounted for in your side of the child support calculation, right? And that third part is the distance, how far you live from the children. A lot of times, every state may have a cookie cutter plan that they want to put the parents in, that if you're within 25 miles, 35 miles, 45 miles, the state will say, okay, well, you have more opportunity to have 50-50 access because you live in the same community as the child. But if you're over 50 miles, then they may want to put you in, a program or a process where it's a step up, and then you have, every other weekend. Mm-hmm. And then if you're outside of 100 miles, then, you might have, a plan that gives you once a month. Well, within that actual parenting plan, we were able to identify that, hey, if we can help these parents get insurance on the children, we could diminish the cost of some of the actual child support. And so we reached out and were able to get some resources from the community to help get insurance. And so we just kept going from there, reaching out to other places and other people in the community to get these children and these parents all the resources that they need to help them in their process.
Yeah, and we try to take these things, a step further. So we talk about the importance of having health insurance for the child during this process, but then we try to take it a step further where there's resources to help you get that insurance if you don't have it, whether it's healthcare navigators in the state of Florida. It's regionally based, and these are also nonprofits where it's no cost to the parents, where they speak with a healthcare navigator to help them identify the best insurance based on their family situations, cost, needs, etc. So informing them that healthcare navigators exist, and depending on the region they're in, We'll tell them who's responsible for their area. And then, at least in the case of Florida, taking it another step further and telling them about Florida Kid Care, which in Florida, Florida Kid Care is the state's affordable healthcare program for kids 0 to 18. But yeah, it's not just telling them, okay, you need to do this. It's take it a step further and help them with the resources.
Yeah. And we've also been able to reach out to people like, the Ward Dunn Foundation. They're in Georgia, and they help us with a lot of resources in Georgia as well. So we have some resources in Georgia also that can help these children and families make sure we protect their right to have access to them also.
Yeah, in addition to housing, they have financial literacy courses. They're web-based. They're no cost. So, we mentioned before the parents that reach out to us, they're hungry for information. Sometimes they want to learn how to budget. They need the financial literacy. And so we know what reputable, no cost programs are out there to help them with that.
I have a question about the co-parenting aspect of things. So do you ever meet with both parents that maybe, they are in communication, maybe to put the parenting plan together and things of that nature?
Greg,
Yeah. Yes, I have worked with two parents at the same time. One parent may have wanted one thing, one parent may have wanted another. And so we were able to get on a line and just talk about what was in the best interest of the children, or, what the state might say. And then, how can you incorporate that into your parenting plan? So yes, we've been able to speak to both parents on both sides and come to a mutual agreement for the parents. I think one of the cases that I do remember, there's a co-parenting situation where the parents were in Miami, and then one parent moved to like New Jersey, and the parent in New Jersey called me and talked to me about the parent in Florida. And so I got on the phone with both of them and told them what was in the best interest of the child, and we were able to work it out. So they were able to have a good, successful co-parenting plan after we had that conversation. So yes, we will work with both parents.
Yeah, and sometimes one parent will reach out to us on the other parent's behalf.
Right.
Maybe that other parent, maybe they're being too stubborn, and they know that they need to reach out to someone, but they're just choosing not to. But they get along, the two co-parents get along, and then the other co-parent says, okay, if you're not going to talk to them, then I will. And so they reach out to that, to us on the other parent's behalf.
Right. And sometimes, listen, men talk to men a certain way, right, Mr. Kelvin? And so,
they do.
it's a way that we can have a conversation with each other that you say, hey, man, you got to get your act together.
Right.
And here's how you need to do what you need to do. Right. And so sometimes, the women will, like Jake said, the women will say, hey, can you talk to my husband? Can you talk to my boyfriend? Can you talk to him for me? And, and so, we'll get on the line, we'll have a conversation. And so, we've done a lot of that also. And Jake, if you pull up the slide, you'll see a slide where, it'll show where we talk. I think we talk to women and men equally, right? We talk to moms and dad equally. So,
yeah, and part of that is the female co-parent is reaching out to us on behalf of the dad.
Yeah, and I'd like for you, I think you're going here, but I'd like for you all to talk a little bit about who you engage with and the numbers, the stats, because I don't want people to think that y'all are full or you can't take any more, right? So yeah. I kind of wanted to share that with the audience as well.
Yeah, I think we're not worried about going over capacity. A lot of times, like I said, it could be a 15-minute conversation with the parent. Maybe they just want a second set of eyes looking at their parenting plan. In other cases, it'll be a year and a half and 15 to 20 conversations over that time span.
And so the intake form allows me to do it really efficiently, right? Because I can look at that intake form and I can say, hey, you haven't established paternity yet. You got to start there. So there's no reason to talk about anything else. Start there. The child isn't born yet, so here's what you need to look out for. You need to make sure that you sign the VDOP or the AOP at the hospital. You do that, then, from there, you can just go and establish a parenting plan. It just depends on where they are. And so we get a chance to do it fairly quickly based on the information that they fill out. And so if they filled out everything to where, they have everything and it's still not where they need it to be, then they'll have a conversation with me. And then they're just in that last bucket of where you got to hold both parents accountable. And that's where, your emotions come in at. So, it just depends on where they are. And we get to do it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back
to that last slide again, because I think people should see how many people you worked with.
Yeah, just bear with me.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, Greg, can you did you have a question? Okay, Greg, can you share if I'm a grandparent or an aunt or, just someone who's not a parent to the child, how can I utilize your services and in what ways would you help or work with me?
So again, that goes back to accountability and researching the law, right? So are both parents involved? Is there some negligence that's going on with the parents? What is the situation? And so if there's something going on with the parents, then the grandparents' rights can trump the parents' rights. So it just depends on the situation. So if grandparents want to get involved, and you may be able to go through your actual child, through the mother or the father, whichever one is your child, and say, hey, I want to have more access to the child and work with them to see if there's an arrangement that can be set up. So it just depends on the situation, but grandparents do have some rights to the children, and it just depends on what's going on with the parents, right? And most times, the parents may want to work with the grandparents to have some of that stress alleviated, so it just depends again on what the situation is and what's happening. In some cases, if the parents are on drugs, the grandparents can step in because you have proof to say that the parents are causing detriment to the children. And so the grandparents may be able to step in and trump their rights and get guardianship. So it just depends on the situation, right? And there's also a such thing as, physical custody of the children, right? If the grandparents get physical custody of the children, then it becomes a court battle to say, hey, what needs to happen with these children? So it depends on what's going on and what stipulates, what is in the best interest of the children. And then we can educate the grandparents on what moves to make to protect the children's rights to be, successful children.
Awesome. Okay.
Now, again, I'm not an attorney. Let's put a disclaimer out there, but I've done this the wrong way and the right way, and I've talked to a lot of people about it.
Cool. Okay. What do we have here, Jake?
Any questions?
This is just wanted to show people the site a little bit. There's three main pillars: education, legal aid navigation support, and mental health and wellness. There's some overlap between them. There's a lot of overlap with education and legal aid navigation support, but yeah, just again, anyone can access the website. That was really important to us when we started this, trying to build something that anyone who needs it can go to it at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
That was gonna be my question as we transition. I mean, I don't know if you had more to present, but as I was just wanting to kind of talk about like what's the next steps. If there's a parent that's listening right now and they said, hey, I need help right this moment. Do they go to the website? Do they download the form somewhere? How do they get help?
Yeah, so this is the homepage. On the far right, there's our contact page.
Okay.
You click on that, and then we have what we call our initial contact form, also known as our intake form or initial questionnaire. And this is it. This is the extent of what we ask. And then the parent submits it and we get it instantaneously. But that is the process right there. Sometimes people will not do this and they'll email us, and that's fine. We just tell them to go to the form because we need to just log everything and capture it. But this is it. This is the form. If someone, look, you can not put your real name. That's fine. Right. A lot of it is we just want to know how to greet you when we do get in contact with you. But yeah, if someone wanted to put, not available, but this is my email or this is my phone, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with the fear? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
No, and I was going to say, and as Jake said, this gives us an idea of where you are in your process. Are you at the beginning? Are you at the middle? Are you at the end? What's going on. And so once we figure out where you are, now we know how to navigate forward and help you through that process to get you to where you need to be. But go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I would assume that people are sometimes afraid to reach out to start this process because they don't want to upset the other parent. How do you navigate those type of situations? Or if that is someone listening now?
Yeah, that definitely happens, especially when there's a situation where, let's just say, it's the mom has the child, the father does not want to be involved, but that mother is entitled to child support. But sometimes they choose not to pursue it. They choose not to pursue it for a variety of reasons. Fear of retribution might be part of it, but also they just don't know what to do. They don't know who to turn to. They think, well, I can't afford an attorney. So yeah, it's all case by case, but there are situations where a parent doesn't reach out because they're afraid of the other parent, getting angry with them, and we understand that. But yeah, it all depends on their circumstances.
And as Jake said, a lot of times moms come and the children are entitled to that support, right? But they don't want to fill out any information. So the parents also have the opportunity to just go to the site and view all the information that they want, and they don't have to say anything to us, right? We have a 12-step plan there, a process of what you might want to use to establish the custody, to establish the parenting plan. You can go and download that blueprint, and you don't have to say anything to us. You can go and read our recommended reading material, which, my book is there. We have other books there. We have, different links to different support groups. We have other resources. You don't have to say anything to us if you don't want it. You don't want to. But
Yeah,
if you
Greg,
come
I'm glad you mentioned that, because to date, since inception, we've helped, in terms of one-on-one parents, over 950. But we've helped really 20 times that number, because most of the time the parent doesn't reach out to us.
right.
They find the information on the website. So we've helped in terms of through the site and the resources that, again, are freely available and very easily accessible to anybody. It's been over 23,000 parents in just 2.5 years. And about 8% of the time, that's when someone submits the form. And then we speak to them one-on-one.
Right.
Wow. It's like hearing that is so exciting, because we know that you're helping people, that there are resources available. But then I think about those 23 million, and I'm like, man, there's so much work to be done. Not saying that all are in that position, but there's definitely work to be done there. So how are you marketing outside of like social media, or and if someone's listening and they're like, how do I pass this along outside of that, is there a number they can call? I know you have your email address in the website, but is there any other ways to get in contact with you?
That's really it right there. It's the website, it's our emails. In terms of how else people find out about us, things like this. We do a lot of virtual events like this, so that always helps. We go on the radio. We do a lot of write-ups, which we pay for. And while they're in mostly local publications, once those articles become available online, then we are able to disseminate it out to the masses, and get more educational materials out there. While it's on the site already, it's just another way to do it through social media. We cover things like, what is a parenting plan, what is child custody, what is child support, representing oneself in family court. So again, it's a lot of education, and just through a variety of different mediums, just getting it out to the masses. But mainly social media is the biggest driver.
But we have spoken, we've spoken for, school boards, we've spoken in colleges, we've spoken in, conferences. So, we have some other things that we do in the community to get the word out and make sure that, we tell the community about the work that we're doing. And then, again, we rely on people like, you guys to spread the information for us and let the community know that, hey, we're a resource, especially to these parents, and more important to men, because a lot of men feel like they don't have resources. And so we really want to get to, both parents, make sure parents know that we are here, but we don't want anyone to feel as if you're being alienated or there's no resource out here for you. So we rely on all of our program partners, on our partnerships, and all the engagements that we have to let the community know that, hey, there's a resource out here for you. You don't have to go through this alone. We know some people that can help you through, and they've already done it for you already. So we want to make sure that we emphasize on that as well.
And sometimes we'll do a speaking engagement where it's very specific. It's to a group of 45 fathers, or fathers and grandfathers. So that's just, that audience is dads. Then we'll do another speaking engagement at, for example, the Florida Coalition for Children, their annual conference. It was about 3,000 people, but we were speaking to state agencies, different stakeholders across the child welfare system throughout Florida. So a lot of case managers, they hear our presentation. They have, their list of 30 to 40 parents that they're helping, and then they'll refer people to us. So it's the speaking engagements are sometimes it's just to specific groups and a specific parent. Other times it's more to community-based organizations who then, after they hear about us, refer the people that they're already helping to us.
That's awesome. So for those of you who are here live, if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll get it to you. But one of the reasons why we really wanted to do this virtually is because we know it's a very sensitive subject. We wanted to be in a relaxed environment. As you saw, we were all sipping our tea and just kind of really just having a discussion back and forth. So, there's no obligation to ask a question now, because you can definitely just reach out to them directly, because we do want to respect privacy and we understand how that can be.
Yeah. And I think you alluded to it earlier, but those 23,000 parents, you said they're about 50-50 male and female, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. But what sparked my interest so much is that it is a great resource for the father. And I know that, fatherhood is so important in terms of raising children and creating strong families. And we all know that Let's Win for America Action has a lot of heavy focus on the male family figure. And this really supports that well. That's why I thought it was such a good alignment for us.
Yeah, well, while we don't focus, we try not to focus on one side, but we also understand the law has done a good job on kind of the ratio right now. Let's say the ratio right now is 80-20, where moms are being granted the custodial rights, and the fathers are being non-custodial, which that is actually a disservice to moms, because the actual stats show that when moms, the children have access to 50-50, moms are more likely to have better education. Moms are more likely to make more money in the workplace. Moms have better mental health. Moms have better physical health. So while we focus on the children and try to make sure that both parties are educated, it is also a disservice that the country or the actual states are doing as far as, the law to moms, because moms are burdened with the children more. And it's not fair to moms, especially when you have a dad who wants to be accountable, right? And so it makes sense for, both parties to have that access, because the stats also show that we showed the stats for the children. Well, the stats also show that, when dad has that 50-50, dads are less likely to commit suicide. Dads have better mental health. Dads have better physical health. That all these things come involved when both parents and the children have access to both parents. So we want to eliminate that disservice that is being done to moms and make sure that dads are being held accountable and make sure that child has access to both.
Got it.
That's a great point, because when Kelvin was speaking, what came to my mind was, are we targeting dads, because that typically is the scenario? But I know you said that you work with both moms and dads, and I just didn't want I didn't want the moms to feel like there's like an attack on them, and I think that's because of the culture, right? Like it's almost like this energy is out here that's saying that if a dad is seeking custody or wanting to be in his child's life, that it's some type of an attack on the mother. But I'm glad you pointed out how this is like a benefit to everybody, and most importantly, the child.
And that's why we emphasize on that, right? It is just as much of help to mom as it is to dad and to the child. This is a family issue. This is a holistically a family issue for everybody involved. It's not one side over the other. We want moms to be more successful, right? We want moms to be their better selves so they can do more and be better for the children. Well, if mom, you're tired and you're stressed out and you had to go work all day and then come home and deal with the child for the rest of the evening, did you really get any rest, mom? Did you really get you time? Did you get a chance to decompress and do what you need to do for you? So there's a disservice being done to moms right now by that ratio being 80-20.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that irritability leads to, just not being aware.
Poor
I
decision
think,
making.
yes, with COVID, the virtual schooling, I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of parents, a lot of moms and parents in general that just kind of was really overwhelmed with
That's right.
having to now be the teacher at home, rather than just, allowing the school system to take care of that. But this is
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Mhm.
what do we have here? Um,
Read
oh,
that out.
this is some of the things you were pointing out.
You gonna go ahead and read some of that, Jake?
Yeah, you're seeing this is the graphic about the fatherlessness in America. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, like we said earlier, there's a big public safety component to this. When the child does have access to both parents equally, um, less likely to go to prison, less likely to engage in violent behavior. So just all of this, there's, a greater societal benefit that really benefits everybody, not just the parents involved, but our neighbors, our friends, everyone.
And keep in mind, these aren't our stats, right? These are stats that you can get from the CDC. You can get from, you can get from anywhere, any public site, anything that you think that might be credible. You can go and get these same stats. They may be a little up or down, but it's going to be in the same general vicinity of what's going on in our country. So it is important that we do things to combat these things. And this is what we're trying to do here with our children have rights.
Great. Great.
This is
Outstanding.
awesome. Y'all are great.
Mhm.
Can you reiterate how, like, the website, how they can find you, all of that good stuff, to make sure we have that documented?
Sure. So the website is ourchildrenhaverights.org. You can also go to ochr.org. There's an intake form on our contact page on the website. It's very brief. Anyone can access it. But again, the website, ourchildrenhaverights.org or ochr.org. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So finding us shouldn't be difficult. And then even easier is getting in touch with us one-on-one. Ourchildrenhaverights.org.
And even if you don't want to get in touch with us, go and get some of the reading material that we have on the site. Take advantage of the information that we have on the site, because this information is out here for you and these children. So make sure you take advantage, and protect that child's right to have access to both parents equally.
Yeah, we
Hey,
include
that's
on our
outstanding
education
again.
page recommended Facebook groups. So
Yes.
that has a lot to do with the parents not reaching out to us. They see what Facebook groups are out there. And in these Facebook groups, the parents who are new to this or have been successful, everyone's, asking questions and people are chiming in. So it's just a way for us to, further give parents more information on how to find better information about this stuff. So it's not just saying, hey, go onto Facebook and figure it out. It's no, check out these specific Facebook groups, whether it's about co-parenting, whether it's a single mother, single father. So a lot of it is just helping parents find more information.
That's great.
Great.
Well, as we get ready to wrap up, I would like to just invite you. Do you have any closing comments or remarks or any additional information you want to share with the audience?
Well, we want to thank you again for co-hosting this with us and inviting us on. Anytime we get a chance to speak to more people, we're all for it. Again, this is a nonprofit. This is, the whole idea was to take Greg's lived experience of successes, failures, learning from common mistakes and getting things wrong and then getting things right so that other people don't make those same mistakes. So anytime we have a platform like this, we appreciate it because that's why we started this in the first place. And again, anyone who needs the information, it's ourchildrenhaverights.org.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Greg and Jake. To all those listening live, thank you all for your attentiveness. Those on the replay, we hope this serves as a blessing to you. And we just can't thank you enough. It's Our Children Have Rights, and go check out the website.
Yeah, and follow them on social media. As they stated, it is a nonprofit. So if you want to support them in any way you can. I'm excited as I'm looking at this comment from GLA. That's gonna be such a great resource for y'all.
Yeah.
So thank you, Claire, for being a part of this, for listening in. And then, like I said, like Kelvin said, if you are listening to the replay, share this, push it out, tag us, make sure that you're getting this to whoever needs to know it. And if you enjoyed this discussion and you want more discussions like this, please make sure you follow Let's Win for America Action and LWFAA, and feel free to support us as well if you choose, because everybody's doing this. Is a labor of love for everyone here. but it's a much needed labor of love. So thanks, guys.
A lot of love, mostly
Thank
love.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank y'all so much.